It's been a while. I know things have been a bit busy here at the farm. I know I had promised a spring home tour video, but you guys, my house is a disaster. I'll just tell you, it's a mess here and there's no way I can share a tour right now. I will, but I'm just not at the place to be able to do that right now. As you see, we have a new bottle baby here that we are raising in the house, and raising a lamb in the house is just like having a newborn. I mean, you're feeding around the clock, you're changing diapers. She's in a little diaper here so she can be in the house. She's way too small to survive outside on her own. So anyway, she's super sweet. So her name is Rosie, and she's been with us for 2 weeks almost now. I had no idea how much of a mess it would cause, like the inside of our house, just by doing an exterior renovation. So it's just been a little chaotic, but that's okay. I'm gonna get back on track. As far as our house goes, we are actually kind of on hold right now. We're waiting on some windows to come in, and they are taking about a month longer to get here than what we originally thought. So our contractors are kind of at a standstill. The kids had spring break last week, so it worked out okay. We were able to enjoy that. And really, we've just had a good time kind of putting phones down and just enjoying one another and raising this little girl here and taking care of the chickens and the cows and the horse, and there's just a lot going on. So anyway, I appreciate your patience. Today I'm going to share a little DIY project with you all that I've been wanting to do for a while. So I want to go ahead and knock that out today and see how it goes. I have plans to turn a couple of lamps that I already own into sort of like concrete looking lamps. I'm so glad to have you guys here. Thank you for sticking around. I appreciate it, and I hope you all enjoy the video. Say bye, Rosie. I've had these two matching lamps for several years now, and while I like the way they look on their own, I feel like I can transform them to better fit the style of our home right now. Over the last year, I've transitioned our style just a bit here at our farmhouse, and I think this makeover will help these lamps be a better fit for the current style we have. I'm using this feather finish concrete overlay product that I just had already. This is the same product that I used on our bathroom sinks when I refinished those several years ago. The same box of stuff here, so a little bit goes a long way. It lasts a really long time, so I've been able to do a lot of different things with just this one bag of product. It's really easy to mix up. You just add a little bit of, it's like a powdery substance that turns into the concrete. Then you add a little bit of water until you get the consistency you want. I did not measure anything because I feel like I've done this so much that I sort of know what the consistency should be, but there are measurements on the box if you want to follow those the first few times until you get kind of the hang of how it should be. Because of the shape of the lamps, I found it was just easier to use my hands to smear the concrete product onto the glass. I decided to do 2 thinner coats rather than one, thicker coat, just because it allowed for better coverage and an easier time getting the concrete to set up. I thought about using my textured spray paint that I used in my last DIY project to, spray these lamps down first to give the concrete something to stick to a little bit better, but I decided not to just because I want to use that spray paint for something else I'm going to be working on soon, and so I decided to kind of save that and just put the concrete right on the glass, and it did go on pretty thin and just sort of see-through at first, but as, I began to layer on that second coat, it was just fine. Here's a look at the first layer of concrete done on both lamps. It's still wet and has to dry, but to speed this process up, because I'm super impatient when it comes to projects like this, I keep an old hair dryer just in my paint supplies, because I can use that to kind of speed up dry time for paint, or in this case, the concrete. And you'll see as the concrete begins to dry, it turns into a really beautiful color. Here's after the first coat is almost dry on both lamps. Before I start sanding, I'm going to go ahead and add that second coat. And you can see here, I'm just sort of taking my time to go around the top part. I didn't tape anything off. I probably should have, but again, I'm impatient and I usually never paint or tape things when I paint or do any kind of project. So anyway, I'm just adding the second coat on now and smoothing it around. I didn't really have a pattern or a certain way I applied the concrete. My goal was just to get the lamps covered. And you'll see later when we sand it all down that having those different brush strokes or marks from my hands will actually end up adding a lot of really pretty dimension to the overall product when we're done.
You can say I lost my mind, I will keep on holding my head high, even if the sky is falling down.
For the smaller detailed areas of the lamp that I needed to cover, I just used a Q-tip and dipped it in the concrete mixture and just sort of edged my way around those small areas. It's okay if you get a little bit over on the metal or whatever else you're working with, because it does come off really easily with a little bit of water. You just got to get it before it has time to set up. And to clean up the edges where I did, kind of overlap a little bit, I just wet the Q-tip with some water and wiped the area clean, like I said, before the concrete had time to dry.
Even if I'm falling down, I will keep on searching for my highs.
My favorite part of this project was actually the sanding, because once you sand the concrete smooth, you really can see how pretty it is. It's just really fun. I used a small little piece of sandpaper that I folded to get the top, and then I used a sanding block on the rest of the lamp. Now I did sand in a continuous direction just so that I could have the sand marks, all going one way. So I decided to just kind of work my way side to side around the perimeter of the lamp base.
Even if the sky is falling down, even if the sky is falling down, the sky is falling down.
I accidentally sanded over an area at the top of the lamp that wasn't all the way dry yet, so it really wasn't a big deal to fix. I just reapplied some of the concrete and let it dry and then sanded it later on. Hopefully you're beginning to see that dimension that I talked about earlier, because I chose not to be super strategic about the way, I applied the concrete to the lamps. I just used my hands and put it on there just however it would go on. I didn't have any kind of pattern or anything, but because of that, you can kind of see the lines and ridges from where I applied it that way. And now that I'm sanding it all nice and smooth, those characteristics really pop. Here is the finished look of the concrete after I wiped them down just with a damp cloth to get rid of any dust that was left behind. I chose not to seal them, but you can if you want. I just really like the natural look of the concrete just as it is. To finish off this makeover, I decided to use a little bit of rub and buff to turn the brushed nickel portion of the lamps into a really pretty antique brass look. I love this product. I'm still pretty new at using it, so if I could do this again, I would just use my finger to sort of actually rub and buff the product onto the metal. For the second lamp, that's what I did. The first lamp I applied with this little brush here, and because I'm going from, the silver to the gold, it was such a drastic change. It showed every little mark. So like I said, on the second lamp, I did just use my finger and rub it in, and it was so much easier to do it that way. I've been loving adding antique brass elements to our home over the last few months. It's really just made our house feel all the more cozy and warm, in my opinion. I used to think that, you couldn't mix metals, but I'm learning how to slowly do that. I have a lot of other finishes in our house, and so working in this antique brass has been a little bit challenging, but it's been fun too, and I'm learning that you definitely can mix metals in your home. Here's another reminder of where we started, and I just used the same lampshades that I had before, but I probably will change those out at some point. They just need to be replaced just because they're older, and they do need to be replaced. But for now, I really, really love the look. I love the warmth that it brings to our kitchen. I'm a huge fan of having like a buffet and having lamps on each side, and so I'm really happy I can continue with that look, but just kind of transform the overall style. Well, that's going to do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it brought some inspiration your way. There is so much you can do with this product. Now I'm thinking I may transform a few vases. I'm not sure, but there's definitely a lot you can do. I hope you enjoyed the video. And again, thank you for your patience as my videos have been a little sporadic lately, but I appreciate you hanging in there with me, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.